Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Crash Course Autographs. I, of course, am Matt, aka Stormageddon. And real quick, I just want to thank my Patreon supporters, Rob, Robert, MJ, and Case. If you too would like to support me via Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Stormageddon. I believe anything above the $3 level gets you a lovely shout out on this show. Every little bit helps for me to continue to grow this and all the other podcasts I work on, so go ahead and go check that out. But now on to this week's episode, which is with the incredible Angélique Roché. I have the benefit of knowing Angélique through very many nerdy circles, and she is an awesome human who is a podcaster, presenter, actress, writer, all-around nerdy badass who I enjoy hanging out with and chatting with, and I was so glad to be able to finally get her on the show. We talk about a great many things from Marvel to DC to TV to movies to books to comics to pretty much everything in between. So without further ado, presenting myself and the incredible Angélique Roché. Enjoy. About the audio fidelity. I mean, I am, but like...
Oh, God. And the funny thing is, me and Karama are so very different about our podcast.
Oh, I noticed. I'm recording, by the way.
Oh, it's fine.
I know.
Wait, have you been recording the entire time?
No. I just turned it on because I wanted to get some levels.
I think the greatest thing is because we are different is what makes the show so good.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it's funny going to see it live. Like the dynamic I saw in the room is the dynamic I know you both for. So, like, to me, it's just like hanging out with my friends while everyone else is in the room is like, are they okay?
It's like what's happening? It's like being in a living room, and it's totally fine. So I think it's really interesting because she is an editor and brilliant with anime and just so smart about comic books and so smart about universes and so invested in seeing these amazing creators, particularly on the independent comic side, get amplified and elevated in such a way. And I think the thing that we have in common is that we are so utterly fascinated by people.
Yeah.
Different parts of people's stories fascinate us. And you can kind of tell it's like this pull and push situation that works out really well, particularly when we've actually had sleep. Normally when there are margaritas, but this genuine fascination about people's lives and how they got there and what makes them a storyteller.
Well, that's what I love about all of the things you do. By the way, we're recording. I'll figure out how much of complimenting Karama I live in, because I know that drives her nuts.
I can compliment Karama all day.
See, I have to ask you, if you have a friend that you love who gets annoyed by compliments, does it make you want to do it more? Because it makes me want to do it more.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page. But yeah, what I love about all of the things that I've seen you put out into the world, and there's a lot of them at this point, is that even if I don't know the guest, you're fascinating enough that I want to listen.
Aw, thank you.
And it's true, because Marvel's Voices, like, and we'll go through a lot of stuff, but like starting with Marvel's Voices, I got into that because I knew you were ready and I knew you were attached. And I don't know who half of these people are because I don't read current comics. I love old comics. Like, you know, I knew the gentleman whose name always escapes me. Who
like Roger Stern old comics, like the 80s, 90s?
Oh, yeah. I have anthologies of, like, Superman and Green Lantern and Batman, like, old school, like, hardcover, black and white stuff. But Marvel's Voices was great because your interactions with these people are great. And also, it comes off so conversationally. Yeah. Like, you're the only person I listen to that sounds like me in the sense that you're just easy to speak with. And you just bring out information so easily from other people. Like, you don't have to pull or quiz them. Like, everyone just easily talks to you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's one of these things that I realized a long time ago is that, you know, when someone walks in and you've genuinely done research on who they are, and you've genuinely sat down and you come to them in a positive way about their work and you are interested about how it was created, it's great. Like like there's a point in every single interview, and my old producer used to say it, where the interviewee would go, "Whoa, how do you know that?"
Yeah.
Or, "Well, I've never really thought about it like that." And it's because I never approach an interview in a way that I want to quiz somebody or catch someone or get clickbait. Because I started off in arts and entertainment journalism. I started off being fascinated, not just about the art people created, but fascinated about the story behind the art and why they created it. Mm-hmm. And, and I was just talking about this today. There's a group from, God, I think they're from Kentucky. Don't quote me on this, but there was this group called the Nappy Roots. And they were, I think they only came out with like one EP. There was a lot of singles. They're much like Dead Presidents. Dead Presidents, please make another EP. I need you to make another EP.
So do the rest of us, but I'm not holding my breath on that one.
You're great. Mind Sex was a great album. I mean, great single. But point being is, and I remember being at Fort Knox in training. And I was just in my squad, and we were doing some field exercise. We were in the woods. We were supposed to be cooking some food. I'm sitting down. 6'2", country white boy showed up, like, should have been wearing cowboy boots and a hat. And he started singing Nappy Roots, and I was like, so, I mean, that's the impact that I love to just talk about.
Yeah.
And a lot of artists some artists do come into it, and all artists are different, right? Writers, illustrators, actors, musicians, executive producers, music supervisors. They're all ridiculously different, and there's all something so fascinating. The way they dress, the way they stand, their favorite music. We just had this interview with Greg Pak, which you were at. Mm-hmm. And the thing I love about talking to Greg, is it Pak?
I think it's Pak or Pak. I don't know.
It's Pak.
Apologies, Greg, though you're not listening.
Sorry, Greg. We are definitely going to listen to this. I'm going to send it to you. I love, and I always get the name mixed up because his name is similar to another word that means park. Mm-hmm. But because we all grew up in America and Pac-Man is a big deal, our brains automatically go
to Pac.
To Pac. But I think it's Pac. And so one of the fascinating things about Greg is that he always knew he wanted to be a writer.
Yeah.
And, the influence that writing had on him, but also the influence that nerd culture had. Like, this guy was a Boy Scout and loved the woods and, like, rode a bike and like his life was basically Stranger Things. Like he's that kid that was playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like literally copyright infringement on Stranger Things, minus obviously the upside down Greg's life. And for me, being able to talk to him, particularly as a kid who comes from a mixed race background, mixed ethnicity, who grew up black in the South, but also grew up kind of not fitting in. Yeah. It's so amazing to see how he's translated this idea of representation into such a glorious legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the man created Sakar. Like, it's...
And it's funny about that, going to that episode, like, I was going because I adore you and Karima, and because your conversations are always great, but what was great about that is, like, when I'm in the room... the Princess Who Saves Herself and Planet Hulk come up, and I'm like, oh, I know those things. Holy shit, it's that Greg. Like, because I'm sure I've heard his name over the years, but I'm not super familiar with the people making the comics. It was not a thing that I always knew. I don't have favorite comic artists or comic writers. I'm sure I would if I really think about it. Besides, like, people who I know now, like Matt Fraction and others who I've read more recently. But as a kid, I just read what was in front of me, so it didn't really matter. But I loved finding that out, and then realizing that, as you did in real time, holy shit, this is the guy who created Sakar.
Yeah.
Like, we have it and Jeff Goldblum because of that guy.
Right.
Right?
And you get into this really cool situation where you start meeting these fascinating people like Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Fosse is the nicest guy.
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston, nicest guy. And this isn't a name drop. It's you look at these people on screen.
Yeah.
And, when you get a chance to sit down with a Taron Egerton.
Yeah.
And you realize that Taron Egerton is not only playing a Gelfling.
Yeah.
In the new Dark Crystal, that Taron Egerton loves the
Dark
Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wait, you are just like every other nerd.
Yeah.
You just happen to be hyper talented in a space where you really want to do this.
Yeah.
Or you, and there's just so many actors like that. I remember my first interview for Marvel's Voices. I was interviewing a guy from Legion. And
oh, yes. I remember that episode. That was a good one.
And when you realize that, he didn't realize he wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
But then, he really wanted to be he wanted to play basketball, which obviously, this tells you how much I love artist stories. Prince was like, either I am going to be a famous NBA player or a musician. And when you think about the fact that when Prince stopped growing, he's like, well
I guess it's
guess
only
I'm
one.
not going to be an NBA player. Still dope at basketball. Still played on the high school basketball team. But he also took music business 3 years in a row. The same class. 3 years in a row in high school because he knew that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And there's so much... It's no different than a person who grows up at 10 years old and wants to be a doctor and save lives. And I honestly think comic books and popular culture and movies and all of our fandom, they do save lives.
Oh, absolutely. They without a doubt.
Disseminate messages. Like, you cannot separate our social, economic, cultural zeitgeist from who we personify as superheroes.
Yep.
And who we see as villains.
Yeah.
And so for me, the fascination is being able to talk to the artists that craft that kind of work and being able to look at the different things that construct this world within a world. Mm-hmm. Particularly prolific world builders, right? Like when you think about the Terry Pratchett's and you think about the Justin Cronins who wrote the Passage series because his daughter wanted to see a little girl be a hero. Yeah. And basically took vampires to a whole nother level. Don't talk to me about Mark Paul Gosling getting cast in that, but it's great show. And I think, talk about the fact that this guy was a book editor. Yeah. I mean, a book critic, that this guy was a book critic. And you can see the expertise of being a book critic as you see all of the parts of how he crafted this really well done, deep character dive series. It is utterly. Or you look at R.R. Martin. Yeah. And the fact that, what is the name of the show that came out on Sci-Fi? Night Flyers? Night Flyers? Yeah. The fact that character was always supposed to be a black woman. Yeah. And then you look at the contrast of how much you're like, okay, so where are the black people in the rest of your stories though, dude? But that character who was supposed to be stronger than and smarter than and an enhanced human being who's supposed to save everybody, but also is ostracized by her crew, was a black woman from the get-go, regardless of what was on the novel. Yeah. Regardless of that really bad movie that was made out of it, always supposed to be a black woman. And you go, why? Why this character? Like, I would love to sit down and talk to him and go, but what? Or Richard Matheson, who wrote I Am Legend and basically goes, no, I really just wrote the book and I thought about what would I do if I was the last man on earth. And then personifies the fact that human beings in this story are the monster. Yeah. And then you look at every single recreation of it and the complete rejection by directors and writers and screenwriters that human beings are the monster.
Yeah.
If you look at every single movie adaptation of that book, it rejects the thesis that Richard Matheson was trying to put forward. And until the fact, and there are probably other experts on horror and suspense that could give other examples of this, but The Girl with All the Gifts, where finally the main character, and I love the movie version, but the movie version and the book version are different. But in not a lot of ways, they were actually pretty close to it. Where the girl in the movie version goes, and I'm sure the quote is a little different in the book. We are the next evolution. You have to die so we can live. And she's a hybrid spore zombie and human. And it's just this understanding that, oh, you've written a book that was successful where human beings have become obsolete.
Yeah.
And we die.
Yeah.
Cool. It can work, right? And you think about in your head, what was the what if in their head? Like,
right.
What influenced them as kids? Like, what was the first thing they wrote? Was it R.L. Stine? Was he writing jokes? Like, R.L. Stine, as dry as he is, wrote a comedy magazine.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually some sick comedy in Goosebumps, and you're like, why am I laughing? Because R.L. Stine was a comedian. Well, is a comedian.
He's still living, yeah.
And I just think all that is fascinating. I'm on a tangent.
I mean, it's good to know that you have no feelings about nerd culture at all,
nope,
or nerdy
none.
properties, nothing.
No, none. Don't get me started on Star Trek.
I could do a whole podcast probably with you just on Star Trek.
Oh, so many, except for Voyager.
Yeah.
It is the dark hole of my knowledge.
It's okay. You're allowed.
Well, I also think there
Enterprise is mine mostly because I just couldn't get into Scott Bakula, who I love, as the lead. He just
stayed in Quantum Leap.
Yes, agreed.
You had one sent by and you were really good at it.
But
but he will always be a captain in Star Trek. You cannot take that away from him. No, that's true. And he will always show up for every convention because in his mind, that is the apex of his life. My theory.
Well, you do what you can. Look, I met Lou Ferrigno at a convention. He was the sweetest human on the planet, but also when I tried to take a photo with him, went, that'll be $40. And I went, all right, I guess I'll respect that. This is your gig.
But but that's real. Like that,
yeah,
that
of
actually,
course.
Not saying that happened at Y Comic Con. I think it is a different situation at Y Comic Con.
Yeah.
But I also was in a situation where I really wanted to take this picture with the Magicians cast because one, love that. Lev Grossman. I don't agree with everything you do in your books, but I really do enjoy the characters you have been able to create because they are complicated and complex and imperfect and strong women characters.
Yep.
That are all of the above and men who are allowed to have emotion and it's I can talk about the Magicians for days. I actually had a great opportunity to interview does he play Rafe? The guy who's in love with the sloth?
I'll take it at your word.
Point being is, and I really wanted to take a picture with them, and I was a little too chicken to go take a picture with them in the beginning because I was also on a panel. And they were like, oh, we just in it. We shut down the thing. Technically, we were charging, and we didn't want to make... They didn't want to make everybody else feel like, oh, this woman had just walked up and asked for a selfie.
Yeah.
And then didn't pay when everyone else had paid.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Can we get all of them in one picture? You tell me how much that costs. I will go to the ATM. I will get that
right,
cash.
Of course.
Because also, y'all came... Because some of them live in Vancouver and some of them live in Cali. And they had flown out for this.
Sure.
And they came. And I was like, absolutely. I will go get however much it costs.
Right.
And I think it ended up being like $60.
Whatever, yeah.
I mean, and Not to disregard the fact that $60 is a substantial amount of money.
Right.
But also it's the same reason why I went to my first New York Comic Con. I got one ticket for one day. And I got one picture because it was Pearl Mackie. And because Pearl Mackie had played the first woman of color lesbian on Doctor Who with natural hair.
Yep.
And God, when I tell you, I love me some Martha.
Oh, sure.
Freema is amazing.
Martha is one of my favorite companions. Often at odds with other Who fans, but I loved her.
I think she had a much better ability to spread her wings on Torchwood.
Yes.
Than she did on Doctor Who, and I think there were different writers that she was able to establish a much more complex, well-rounded character with.
Sure, absolutely.
I think she's doing a great job on New Amsterdam. I had the ability to meet her a couple of weeks ago, and she's just absolutely bloody lovely. Like, she's just the nicest human being. But she got several seasons, and then Torchwood, and Pearl Mackie, and this, look, Moffat, God bless you. Glad there's a new showrunner. I, at the beginning of the season, said, and I said this on Reality Bomb, if you turn this black person into a Cyberman, I'm taking a break.
Yeah.
I'm taking a break. You turned Mickey into a Cyberman.
Yep.
You turn my boy Danny Pink into a Cyberman.
Yep.
What was it, Ricky? I think Ricky, not Mickey.
Yeah.
So his doppelganger
Still
got killed while fighting the Cybermen. I know there's a lot of Whovians who are like, Angélique, you're wrong.
Yeah, it's fine.
But then you turn Danny Pink, which messed up the whole paradox. Don't show me a great grandson and then turn the man.
Yeah.
John with you. And if it wasn't for this transition into the new Doctor and this revolutionary transition and my love for Matt Smith and my love for David Tennant, who, by the way, are both very awkward in their own. I've interviewed both of them, and when I say awkward, it is a compliment.
Yes.
They're lovely human beings, but to have, if it had not been for this transition to a new showrunner, if it had not been for the transit, I would have been like, I'm done.
No, I felt the same, but after seeing the clips of Jodie and
Jodie's so bloody lovely,
and seeing the ensemble, which is what the show has needed since the second season of the reboot. They needed an ensemble. We needed not romantic interests. We needed people who could fall in love with each other, but not the Doctor.
Well, you needed to go back to the original concept, right? And not in a bad way. Like, look, we could talk about Doctor Who for days, and we won't.
Even though the first time we really ever hung out together was at a Doctor Who bar, the Way Station.
Way Station.
But no, yeah, I feel the same way. Sarah and I watched most of the new season. I think we've seen all of the episodes. We saw up to the New Year's episode. I don't know if there's been anything since.
No. And I have friends who are very conflicted. I have friends who just want big monsters and they want. And I was borderline about to write an article, and I just didn't because I didn't want the blowback. I didn't have time for the blowback. But this season was the first season where they put the power back in the hands of the humans.
Yeah.
To solve their own problems.
Yeah. And
the Doctor was just there to guide.
Right, which is what the first couple seasons were. And even the reboot first couple of seasons. That's what was great about Eccleston is for the most part, even though humans drove him bonkers, he had no and all faith in humans at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it's what made, and same with Tennant in the first season, at least. And Matt Smith even for moments, but by the time we got to Peter Capaldi, he's this savior. And I liked Capaldi as the Doctor because he reminded me of Eccleston. I just didn't like anything he was in. I know.
I like Danny Pink.
I know.
Danny Pink
was great. I loved Rory. Rory is honestly one of my favorite companions.
Arthur Darvill
is the best. He's the only reason I watched Legend of Tomorrow, which I ended up falling in love with.
He's the reason why I started watching. He's not the reason why I kept watching, but he was definitely the reason. I was like, you're a
time person. Yeah, got it.
I see you. I see you. There is actually a couple of Doctor Who alum that have weaved their way into that show.
Yep. But to take it back to...
Yes. Sorry, we've
fine.
gone on a nerd tangent.
Look, if I can get you to talk the whole time, then I've done my job, because I don't want to hear me, and most people aren't tuning in to hear me. They're tuning in to hear you. But what I think what I love about all the work that you're doing on Sci-Fi, on Marvel, with the podcasts, is your ability to engage with people on a level because you're just genuinely interested in the day-to-day stuff. And that's why I think when you interview people like Michael Fassbender or Matt Smith, you can get a great interview because they can read that immediately. There are certain people you meet in life that you can immediately sense their vibe, and you're one of those people. For me, it was like, oh, I can be buddies with this person because, like, I get her already, and you're just the kindest person I've ever met.
Aww. After meeting and loving your wife, I take that as a huge compliment because
my wife's pretty great too.
Your wife is pretty amazing.
But what I love about specifically Marvel's Voices is it's a show where you just get to know these people that you have on, and you let them geek out too.
Oh yeah,
which is my favorite thing.
Oh my gosh, that's the best part about it.
Now, with Marvel Voices, did you have to audition for the podcast? Did you already have a relationship with Marvel before it came out?
I did. I did an audition. It's, the same way you get any gig.
Right. And because the show just feels very made for you. To me, anyway. Like, if anyone else had hosted the show, I'd be like, nah. No, this is Angélique's show.
Well, I contribute that to good producers. And great editors. It's the people, right?
Yeah.
It's when it's about the amazing diversity of creators who have this opportunity to sit down and talk about their work, but also their fandom and what they love and why they created. It's like talking, and I actually had a chance to, and this is great. I had a chance to sit down with Chris Anka, Mariko Tamaki, and Sina Grace at FlameCon.
Oh, nice.
And we did a panel at FlameCon last year, and subsequently I've interviewed them all in long form on Marvel's Voices, but which is available. And they're all three completely different and completely brilliant, and their stories are like, when you think about, and we sat there and we talked about this at FlameCon. When you think about Sina Grace is Iranian American from Cali, who knew at 12 years old that he wanted to do comics, and then interned for a comic book company in Cali, and then went to college and convinced them to allow him to do a dual thesis that was both illustrated and written, because he wanted to be an illustrator and a comic book writer. And you talk about a man who's now written Bobby Drake. He's now written Gem of the Holograms. He's now written for Archie. He's now written for The Labyrinth. He has worked at Marvel and Boom. And you talk about this man who wrote an autobiography of his own life, right? And then you look at a Chris who wanted to do animation and went to a performing arts high school, who, had a creative influence as a kid, who is Asian American, although when you're from Cali, no one knows, but is Asian American, and now a big fan of BTS, for the record, was not before. But when you look at him and you realize that he talks about how his room had magazines on the walls, but it was completely neat. And how one of the biggest challenges of drawing Chase's room is that he's this high school kid who is not neat.
Yeah.
But then you look at how he dresses in this really cool way where it's very neat, it's very standard, but it's got all of these patterns. And when you think about how his tattoos are, they're very neat and they're very discernible, and they're almost like thinking about his wall. Yeah. And then you think about Mariko Tamaki, who writes these beautiful graphic novels about coming-of-age stories that deal with queerness. And you think about how, she used to do performance poetry in Canada, and worked for a queer performing arts space. And, she's now writing X-23, who is this amazing, strong woman, or like a shaman. And you think about how the stories that are so important to us are coming from this diverse group of people, or Saladin Ahmed, who, you know, his grandmother read him 1001 Nights, and how that influenced the storyline for Exiles.
Yeah.
But also how he can take a step back, and as a dad of twins,
Like,
but also as a person who used to live in Brooklyn, write Miles Morales, or write this amazing detective comic about a black woman detective in the 70s in Detroit, as an independent comic, right? And you realize that our stories are so rich and creative because they are geeks.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
They love the genre they write in, because they see the stories in their head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, Chris used to do like storyboarding, I believe, for Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
Right? And then you look at Anila Magruder, who did storyboarding and wrote her own web comic, basically, before people called them web comics.
Yeah.
And she's been obsessed with animation since she was a kid. And these brilliant people are creating our modern mythology. Of course they get to geek out.
Right.
If they weren't geeked out, they wouldn't create such vibrant and amazing and, like, you know, I'm obsessed with two comics right now. Self-Made, which I was really excited. The author actually signed a couple copies for me at C2E2, and Crowded. And both of them are, and I think this is because I used to be a computer geek, both of them are based in this idea of technology. Mm-hmm. Self-Made deals with this concept, and I'm still in the middle of catching up, but it deals with this concept of a main character who is inside, in the first issue, is inside a matrix that's glitching of a virtual reality game. And Crowded, which is so amazing, has two main characters, and you know what? She's basic. Charlie is very basic, and you have this detective protector, and it's all based on this concept of what if you could crowdsource somebody's assassination.
Huh.
Anyone's. It doesn't matter. That person has 30 days to live. And if they can survive the 30 days, then you can't ever do another crowd campaign on them again. I think Rebel Wilson has actually optioned it.
Oh, cool.
And when you think of things like Umbrella Academy, and you think of these concepts of, you know, it's just Deadly Class.
Yeah.
These amazing LaGuardia by Nnedi Okorafor, who, by the way, her novellas are brilliant. And her story is fascinating. It's like, she was almost a professional athlete who had a issue with her back and went to a surgery, and there was some rare surgery issue that happened, and she was paralyzed, and she was in bed, so she started reading sci-fi, and she realized there weren't enough black characters, and so her friend was like, write it, and she went to school, and before she finished her first, like, she'd written a novel.
Yeah.
Right? And she can walk. Right? Like, it's people's stories are building what our future is going to look at when we're gone. And maybe I'm biased because so a lot of people don't know this. My third cousin is a Presidential Medal of Honor Pulitzer Prize winning writer.
Okay.
Who used the story of our family in one of his most classic books. And I think because I know so much of the history of our family, I am very rooted in how powerful stories can be, because they change how we look at the world and how we feel like we belong in the world.
Yeah.
And so when you see an Afro-Latino Spider-Man, or you see a queer Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie on screen, and then you see a Saladin Ahmed use that Valkyrie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm like? It's just.
Well, and I think what I really love about all the work that I've consumed of yours is that. So I have to ask: did you always want to be some a form of presenter or storyteller? Like, is that something that you've always wanted to do?
Yes. I don't think I realized until I sat down and did a self-examination. So I started in. I always wanted to act.
Right.
And when I was in high school, I started doing photography. And I went to college. Mom was like, acting, might end up being a waitress. You should get a print journalism degree. So I got a print journalism degree, telling stories.
Yeah.
And I was actually editor of Arts and Entertainment. So I told arts stories.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah.
And I went from that to law school, which is basically the same thing if you look at it. At its very core level, even a legal brief, it's telling a story from a very specific perspective to get an intended outcome.
Right.
And so I went from that, and I got an LLM, and I went and worked on the Hill, thinking I needed to get a real job. But I still kept writing stories, and I kept painting, and I kept dancing, and for 12 years I was a performance poet. And so I wrote poetry and did that kind of work, and would start short stories but never really finish them, and start novels and never really finish them. There's a
You
great
mean as an
story.
artist you started projects and then
And
they
never-
fell and never finished them?
Oh my God.
That never happens.
Novel! All puns intended. There's actually a story I need to finish called Michaela Needs a Vacation, about a writer who can't finish her second book and works in a funeral home. Don't steal it. I know who you are. It's a great story. And I think even going into politics, I always viewed as whether I was a regional director or a campaign manager, I always viewed the personal story or the branding or the overarching story we were trying to tell people as what rooted us. Mm-hmm. Even when I worked as the vice president at the Ms. Foundation, like the whole idea is, what story are we trying to present? What image are we trying to present? What is your story? Because people like titles and people like money, but people are fascinated about a story. People get invested in a story. And I think that's why I love Vita Ayala's work or you know, one of my favorite writers, two of them actually, Sparkle Hader, who wrote The Chelsea Girl murder mysteries. God. I'll have to remember the names. I have all of them at my house and I'm just blanking. But Sparkle Hader, who I found in a Barnes and Nobles when I was like 16 years old, I got invested in her main character because she's this bumbling, fumbling news journalist anchor who just can't keep herself out of trouble.
Right.
No similarities.
No,
at all.
Nothing. Yeah, you're not
No
seeing yourself in
similarity.
that character at all.
None at all. And then there's this glorious book called The Ruins of Ambery by Melanie Ron. Hey, Melanie Ron, finished the last novel in this series. People have been waiting
also not listening to the
since
podcast.
1994. And Anita Blake.
Yeah.
The Anita Blake murder mysteries that I love so much. Like every single one of these, as I go back and I think about them, are all these stories. Even Interview with the Vampire, Jurassic Park, like all these stories were these rich stories that had you invested in the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jurassic Park is one of those books that I was disappointed. Like, I'm not that guy who goes to see a movie based on a book and go, oh, it wasn't as good as the book. But Jurassic Park was, because I was obsessed as a young boy with that book.
I was sneaking in. I remember I was in 8th grade Louisiana history class. Yes, folks, I am from Louisiana. I'm such a nerd.
Yes, you are. No, it's fine. It's good.
I
appreciate it.
Mr. Somerville, and I was in the back of the class, and he used to hate this because I have a very good short memory. My long memory, sometimes I need to refresh. Like right now, shouldn't have a problem knowing who wrote the Anita Blake series. I really freaking know because I own so many of them.
And yet you can't remember the name. It happens to me all the time.
So the Anita Blake series, which was the first time that I heard of more than just a werewolf. There were were-leopards and were-rats. Thanks to Laurel K. Hamilton, who also adapted some of those Marvel comics. I have them. The Guilty Pleasures, at least. This is back when Marvel was doing a lot of cool covers of stuff. But I used to sit in the back of Mr. Somerville's class, researching from Tangent, and I would be reading, and I remember I was reading Lost World one day in class, and this is when I could like read a 300-page book in like 4 days.
Yeah.
And he would ask me a question thinking that I wasn't listening.
And then you would answer
and I would answer it.
My favorite thing to do.
Thank God Mr. Somerville loved pop quizzes at the end of class, and that's how he graded. Because I would never have to remember any of the facts after that day.
No, they'd be done.
Because they'd be gone. I wouldn't remember them. And my teachers could never figure out how my grades were like C's. But somehow I could read 300, 400, 500-page books very quickly. So yeah, I guess long story short, like, yeah, I think I've always been obsessed with the power of a story. I've always thought people were fascinating. And I think I'm really blessed to be on this track of getting back into performing. And, you know, all of it is married. Like,
yeah.
all of it is married in this really strange way. Like, even through my photographs, I loved telling a story.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Well, also, I think we're living in things have never been better, and they've also never been worse. I say that a lot.
Yeah.
But when it comes to nerd culture, there are things cross-mingling now that when we were kids, you would have never imagined. Like, the fact that, and I promise no Endgame spoilers, that we saw Thanos in a giant battle on screen in Endgame.
Like, you have to understand, like,
I never thought that could happen. The fact that
I interviewed Starlin.
Uh-huh.
And he never thought that would ever happen. Because you when you think about the guys from Image Comics, when you think about a Mark Silvestri, and cool-ass dude, man.
Yeah.
Cool-ass, like, watching him draw Wolverine, phenomenal. But when you think about these guys who went and did Image Comics and created so much of the Wanted, Walking Dead, like all of these amazing things that came out of that, and this owner-created situation. I mean, creator, owner, you get what I'm saying. And they knew they were bloody rock stars.
Yeah.
And then you look at a Chris Claremont, and you look at a Starling. These guys never thought
in a million years,
this would ever happen.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly, being a nerd is mainstream.
Uh-huh.
Suddenly, the Big Bang Theory is one of the longest-running TV shows. That literally is a show that is about nerds.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling. Like, the fact that I can have candid conversations about what video games I'm playing because people know what the hell I'm talking about. 2 of my podcasts are about video games, and they are the more listened to ones because it's mainstream to talk about video games. When I was a kid and I would geek out about how Darkwing Duck had his own video game, and my friends are like, "What's Darkwing Duck?" Like, and it's
Darkwing Duck makes me so happy. Do you know he's back on DuckTales?
I haven't watched the new season, but I do like that they play off the.
I might own all of the seasons of
We'll have to hang out and watch
if you wanna.
I would like to.
I might have bought all of the season
you may
passes.
We may have to hang out and watch.
Caballeros came back. It's so good.
That's great. Well, that cast is unbelievable.
Oh, that cast
and
is. Did you know? Have you seen the episode where Don Cheadle
is Donald Duck? First of all, the fact that of all the people to get Donald to play Donald Duck, you get one of the smoothest talking, funniest, most charismatic dudes online right now.
I'm losing my mind because I get to interview him next month. If you're listening, tell me what you want me to ask Don Cheadle. I don't know.
Don Cheadle, if you're listening, thank you for listening to my podcast because it ain't happening.
Because Don Cheadle's so funny. Today I was on the internet and somebody was talking about their dream.
Chelsea Peretti. Chelsea Peretti talks about how some person tweeted at Chelsea Peretti saying they had a dream that Chris Evans was carrying Chelsea Peretti because her legs turned to holograms. And Chris, of course, chimes in because he's perfect, saying he would be that we'll get through this together. And then Don Cheadle retweets it and quotes it and says,
"Greatest thing ever.
What about the guy who lost his legs?" It was just this interaction that happens.
I was like, what are we doing?
With the buzz with Detective
How did
Pikachu.
we get here?
Did you see of course you've seen the hour of Pikachu dancing, and it's a spoof of a Key and Peele sketch. And that then Jordan Peele retweets it going, like, I'm going to sue them, or, like, get this taken down.
Stop it now.
And then Ryan Reynolds interacts with them going, I've been trying to get it down for ages. I have no idea how this happened. Like, just watching celebs that I adore interact on the internet has been so fun.
It's amazing.
And while most regular humans suck these days, watching these
regular humans just need some more joy in their life.
That is definitely true.
I got joy in my life, and New York became a little less stressful.
It does help.
It does. They actually had a report that came out that was like, having a purpose in life equates to you living longer.
Gee, who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it, friend? Who would have?
So I'd be remiss if I having you on my podcast and you being the prolific nerd that you are, and not asking you what you're watching, playing, and reading these days.
Okay, so
we already talked about how you need to finish Spider-Man for PS4 because it's
I'm very excited for Good Omens, which comes out
on my wedding anniversary this Friday.
This Friday. There's something else that comes out on the 31st. I just finished the last season of Flash, which was actually really good.
I fell off after the previous season.
The guy who played Ragdoll, spoiler alert, was phenomenal. And I think the young lady who played Nora West Allen was really good.
I've heard good things.
This season was particularly good. I think there was a lot of character development out of Barry and Iris that I was looking for. And there's a Rent alum. I always want to make sure. He's amazing.
He was the reason I started watching for
phenomenal.
Jesse L. Martin, because he is just.
Well, I mean, I was sad that Jesse was absent a lot of the season.
Yeah.
I just finished watching the new season of Lucifer on Netflix.
Sarah loves it. I haven't watched it yet.
Tom is also a very fun human being that is a lovely singer.
Well, I watched the opening of the new season over Sarah's shoulder, and he's singing "Creep," which was
over and over again because
good.
His heart is so broken.
So broken. He's so flawed.
But Tom really loves the show, and I think it's really interesting because Tom comes from a family of religious folks.
Yeah.
So he has celebrants in his family, so it's very
awesome.
Interesting. What else am I? I'm looking forward to Dark Phoenix.
Really?
I would.
That's interesting.
I would like it to prove me wrong.
I mean, that's how I was. That's what I was hoping.
But I always love seeing. I always love seeing Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what Alexandra Shipp does.
Yeah.
With Storm. What else am I watching? There's something else coming out on Friday that I have been looking forward to for weeks, and my brain is not. I'm just literally, could you just drop? Could it just drop now?
Right.
But May 21st is going to be a couple good shows. I mean, I still watch Grey's Anatomy.
So does my spouse. She
loves it. It is a thing that I love a lot. New Amsterdam, which Fremont is on.
For me, it's mostly been about comedy. Sarah and I watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Good Place obsessively.
Oh, I love The Good Place. Also, Darcy Carden is a bloody genius. How many
you listening?
Janets can there be?
Speaking to a prolific podcaster as yourself, are you listening to The Good Place, the podcast?
I have not listened to it yet.
It's hosted by Mark Evan Jackson, who opens every episode going, "My name is Mark Evan Jackson. I play Sean." Like the start of every episode, and it's so good.
It's like one of the best characters.
I also love that he's pretty much the same character on both The Good Place and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I'm okay with it because that's just Mark Evan Jackson.
Yes. I'm trying to think if there's any other shows that I'm really. I mean, a lot of my shows are getting pushed. I am watching Cloak and Dagger right now. Marvel's Cloak and Dagger on Hulu.
I need to start
it. The season finale is coming up very, very quickly. Obviously, I'm watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So am I.
I need Umbrella Academy. I need y'all to, like, hurry up on this Doom Patrol. I gotta go home and finish Doom Patrol. It has been...
Is it good?
So good.
I haven't watched it.
I get it. It's behind a paywall. I know we're in the middle of the paywall
Swamp Thing coming
wars.
out, you have my attention because I love the comics, cartoon, and movie.
Yeah.
I had the toys growing up.
Nice.
And it looks like this new...
The movie was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny.
It was really funny.
And, like, the new one looks like it's going to be more horror, which is what the comics were. Yeah. And so I'm actually interested in that.
Yeah.
Also, they didn't change how Swamp Thing looks. He's still got that weird brow.
Nice.
He looks like the comic character,
nice.
Which is what the first live action movie did. So.
But I do love that they're taking these bents, right? Like Sabrina, the what are they? The
Teenage Witch?
The Chaos.
Oh.
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
See, that's right.
So this whole concept of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Looking forward to Dune. Now that Jason Momoa is in it.
I mean, I'll watch him in anything. Just about.
Ready for Picard to come out.
Oh my God! Did you watch the teaser?
It's fine.
I know. Well, I mean, it doesn't tell you anything.
Fine.
But also, Patrick Stewart. I can't think of anything bad that he's done in a while. So,
which is also probably why it's taking so long because he's like, no.
Yeah. Also, they just announced today that Brent Spiner is reprising his role as Data, which has got to be CG, I guess, because Data doesn't age. Angélique's doing a dance y'all can't see, but it's fabulous.
My Data's back. I actually really loved him, and a lot of people don't know he played this role. He was Dorothy Dandridge's manager in the Halle Berry HBO Introducing Dorothy Dandridge.
Really?
He was fabulous in that role, and I was also extremely geeked and did a dance because I love Dorothy Dandridge. What am I reading right now? I am reading Children of Blood and Bone, if I ever freaking finish it. I am reading the second. I am a half reader. It takes me a very long time to finish reading things. I am reading Nnedi Okorafor's re-release of the trilogy of Binti, which has a new short story in it. And I'm also reading the second in the series of Justin Cronin's The Passage, which is brilliant. And I think the reason why it's taking me so long to read is because Justin does such a brilliant job at taking himself out of, and I was discussing this with Sarah earlier. It's like some people are very good in writing in a very specific way, much like some actors are very good in writing in a specific way, and it's wonderful and it's brilliant, and that's just who they are. And then you have these other people who are so masterful at being able to take themselves out, like, and no spoiler alerts if you're reading the Passage series, please continue reading, but there's a particular character and I knew I was in love with. There's these 4 characters that come together all in a school bus and they're trying to get out of the apocalypse, and one of them has a mental disability. He seems to be someone who is in his 30s who becomes a bus driver and drives kids around because he has the ability to do that, but also is on the spectrum.
Okay.
And then he waits, and this is beautiful way he writes this chapter where it's from the perspective of the man who's the bus driver, whose mother has basically committed suicide in a room, but he's not aware. He just realizes everything is stale. Yeah. There's a smell to the apartment. Like, there's a shift in awareness. So he gets in the bus. It's the one thing he knows in the apocalypse to do is to go drive his bus route. And he picks up these two kids and he runs into this guy who worked at the sporting store. And this guy in the apocalypse, the only thing he knows is to go back to what he knows. And he steals his manager's sports car. And they all come together. And it's just so brilliantly written that you get lost in the vibrant nature. And that Octavia Butler's the same way for me.
Yeah.
It has taken me so long to finish the second book of the Parables because the scenes are so brilliant and vibrant and gorgeous and emotional. And so I'm in the middle of reading those 3 books right now, which I'm in love with all of them.
The fact that you can read more than one book at a time is astounding to me.
So it takes me a while to finish these books, but I love them for very different reasons. And then comic book wise, I am loving anything that Eve Ewing puts out because she's brilliant. She also has a brand new book out, which I think everybody should check out. I need to check out. Anything Saladin Ahmed writes, anything Sina Grace is writing. I'm in love with Jared Way's work.
Yeah. It's so funny with him. Like, I grew up loving My Chemical Romance, and I love that music. Every year, the burlesque troupe I produce with, instead of doing a Halloween show, we do a My Chemical Romance burlesque show, because that, to me, is what represents that time of year.
Yeah.
But, like, then I didn't love his solo work, but then discovering Umbrella Academy and, like...
Yeah.
All
when
of
I
his
realized
other work.
he wrote Penny Parker,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm into it.
Yeah.
You're emo in the best way possible.
Pretty much.
And I'm trying to remember what. So the guy who writes Crowded also has written a number of other books. And his work is really fun. And so I have a distinct love for a number of writers. And I'm sure I have not mentioned all of them at all. Anything Mariko Tamaki writes. Chris Sabila. I don't know why I didn't remember that. He's written a lot. It just, yeah. No. And I want to actually get more back into DC. I do love DC Comics. I love Boom Comics. I love anything Greg writes. Big, huge fan of Image Comics. I don't want to, seem like I do have several... long boxes in my house. And I am actually a big, huge fan. My favorite comic book character is actually Harley Quinn.
Okay, I can see that.
I
happen to love the
Harley
way she's
Quinn's
written in
is
certain
brilliant.
stuff. But yeah.
We don't talk about the New 52.
Well, that's because it didn't happen, as far as I'm concerned.
We don't talk about the New 52. But just like this whole idea of where she came from and how she was written and how she was introduced in the animated series.
Oh my God,
as a character that was only kind of supposed to be there for a minute and then turns into a regular, and this whole concept of her bleeding over into multiple animated series, and then Margot Robbie's portrayal.
I still haven't seen it
Of Harley Quinn.
But I heard that's the best thing.
Squad.
Yeah, I've heard that's the best thing about the movie.
But Margot Robbie is brilliant.
She's great.
Margot Robbie is a very, very... She's a wonderful actress. I loved her in Focus, which is why... And it's funny thing. So she was in a movie called Focus with Will Smith, which is a really great movie. It's it's funny and it's irony. And then seeing them again together in the Suicide Squad, I think is the best. Like, that was the best part. I know everybody's conflicted about Will Smith's rendition of Deadshot. I get that. I think there was a lot of limitations and way too much CGI in that movie.
Yeah.
Which is what pulls you away. And I think that's the balance of CGI, right? Like, you have to be able to enhance the movie, not pull people away from the reality. And even Rod Serling said this.
Yeah.
This concept of, and this is why The Twilight Zone was so brilliant, why Rod Serling is so brilliant, and I think Richard Matheson is so brilliant in the work that he's done, is that the story can't be so far removed that it is not believable. It's in its unbelievability.
Right.
Like, you have to still be able, it becomes frightening because there is a possibility that it could actually happen, right? Like, it can't be so not rooted. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It can't be so unrooted.
Sure.
Grammar nerd, she'll get me.
Yeah.
In our actual reality.
Yeah.
That it displaces the viewer. And it pulls the viewer, it disengages the viewer.
Right.
And so I think there's a limit to CGI that when used too much, Justice League, Cyborg was too much.
Yeah. The way they portrayed him was like he was a guy in a CGI costume.
Yeah.
You know,
you needed to give him, and that's what I like about the Doom Patrol.
He's wearing a costume,
much
right?
Better job. And I mean, I'm sure there's some CGI and there's some post and
right.
Even with Brendan Fraser's character, technically Brendan Fraser is not in the suit.
Yeah.
I think there is an ability for it to still be believable that is Cyborg.
Right.
For it still to be believable that there is a human brain inside of
a giant suit of armor.
A giant suit of armor, a giant robot man.
Well, yeah, it's why I actually enjoyed Detective Pikachu. I mean, I enjoyed it for a multitude of
they
reasons.
Did much better because they built a full world,
and because those characters looked like they belonged in that world.
That is why I predict that unless they do much more than recreating Sonic.
Oh, yes.
And so here's the thing. I've had this discussion, and I won't go on too far of a tangent. Transformers worked because the Transformers always came down to Earth.
Yeah.
What the hell is Sonic doing on Earth?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Especially since Earth is not where Sonic is from anyway.
Why are you not on Emerald Island? Why
or
are you
Mobius.
Here?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Also, where's Ruby? Like, why are you here? No. Anyway, I leave you with those parting words. Why are you here?
Before we wrap up, I just have to know what video game you're playing right now.
I am playing. I'm always playing Just Dance, but I am also playing. There is a Toad puzzle game.
Oh, Captain
Switch.
Toad's Treasure Tracker. Yeah,
I love it so much.
It looks fun. I haven't bought it yet, but it looks fun.
I love it so much.
I'll have to give it a shot.
And I need to finish Spider-Man. And I also made the really bad choice of downloading. It's the first one. It just came out with the third one this year. All the Disney characters are in it.
Kingdom Hearts.
I made the very bad decision of downloading the entire collection of Kingdom Hearts.
If you don't have the third one, you can borrow my copy.
I have all of them.
Oh, you have all of them.
And
now.
it is a sad reality that I may disappear into my PS4.
Do it, because
at some point
we can talk about Kingdom Hearts. I have a lot of feelings about it and how they misuse every female character in the entire series.
Yeah, there's not one good strong one. They're all just objects of. This is why I haven't made it through, because I'm like, oh, so you're all just helpless.
But I will credit where credit's due. All of the men have emotions, are okay to be friends, and value friendship so highly.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's nice to see that they don't have to be manly men. Like
I'm also playing DOA and holding off, but I'm going to download Soul Calibur.
Oh, Soul Calibur is my shit.
Soul Calibur is one of the first video games I beat after 18.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, I used to just do dance games, Rock Band, fight. Like, if it wasn't
I miss
Tekken,
Rock Band so much.
DOA, and I know DOA is problematic. I get it.
It is, but it's still a badass fighting game.
It is a badass fighting game. I do have it on the problematic setting. Please don't judge me.
Look, physics, they're important.
Physics does not exist in this game, but great. And Tekken, Marvel versus. Although, look, man, Marvel's versus Capcom Infinite. I haven't played it.
I just after the bad reviews,
I own
couldn't do it.
It was just. I think there is, when people love fighting games, I'm okay with cutscenes.
Yeah.
I'm okay with a storyline. It is like, what was that meme I saw today with Pikachu from Detective Pikachu, where it said, when you finally beaten the boss and then you realize the boss levels up to level 2.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I'm like, I'm beating you. Why do we need these stones? Why do we need these stones?
Don't worry about it. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming, and we're all going to have a good time because that's my jam. So we'll play that.
It's going to be amazing.
It is going to be amazing because Stephen Bloom is still Wolverine, and that's how it should be. Angélique, thank you so much for being on the show. This was great.
Thank you for letting me ramble for however long we've been talking.
Look, if I can get you talking, my job is done. Because again, having great guests. Well, thank you. That's very sweet coming from someone who is an expert at this stuff. I've hit the point where even you deflect compliments. Please tell the listeners where they can find all your stuff and find you on the internet.
Groovy. You can find me at AngéliqueRoché.com. That's ANGELIQUE And you can find me at Angélique Roché on Twitter and at _GELIQUE on the Instas.
There you go. Check out Marvel Voices. Check out The Radical Geeks.
And Geeksplain is coming out now on iTunes.
Oh, I saw that. You
Very
can bet your ass I'll be subscribed to that. And so the last thing I'll ask you to do is we have a saying on this show that I created, not to toot my own horn, but it's this idea that if you're making art, life isn't that bad. This idea that as long as you're creating, life is good. It started from my music podcast, and I've adapted it to everything else. So the saying is, music is life and life is good, and that's how we sign off this show. So if you could sign us off and send us out into the nerdy ether with that phrase.
So music is life and life is good?
That's it.
Oh, I love it.
That's it for this episode of Crash Chords Autographs. Our theme music is by Michael Kill. Our logo was designed by Case Aiken and Joey Amons. If you liked the show, please rate and review us on iTunes and Facebook. You'll help us reach more listeners. Questions, comments, or guest recommendations? Email matt.storm@crashchords.com or hit us up on Twitter at CrashChordsWeb. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Victor Devon, and I am the host of We Burlesque, the podcast. Every Monday, I talk to fabulous denizens of nightlife, including burlesque performers, both seasoned and new to the form, drag performers, performance artists, DJs, and artists who make up their respective scenes. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Please visit WeBurlesque.com to check out episode recaps and see all the formats available. And remember that music is life. Life is good.